beans. Like I said, lentils, chickpeas, tofu, edamame. Those are things that can be transformed in literally thousands of different ways and created into hearty dishes that you bite into, and it's satisfying and keeps you full. Trust me, I stay full, and thick vegans, we out here. Listen, like there's some juicy vegans.
Big vegans. Welcome to The Nugget, where we speak with talented, accomplished guests and learn about the nuggets to their success in order to inspire us to pursue our goals and our dreams. I'm one of your hosts, JP.
Hey, I'm Kara.
Hey, what's up? I'm Joanes.
And today's guest is a fresh plate of talented joy.
An energetic TV personality, actress, singer, and chef who discovered her passion for food after a long, hard battle with body dysmorphia and bulimia. Choosing happiness has transformed her life in more ways than one. She's now a culinary expert and is a social media powerhouse with an audience of almost 500,000 and growing. She also hosts the Colorful Home Cooking Show, where she features popular videos of her singing the recipes for her colorful, tropical, vegan dishes.
Yeah, you know you need this vegan cheese quesadilla, easy and delicious.
Raised by Haitian and Puerto Rican parents, Chef Reyes creates irresistibly delicious vegan food rooted in Caribbean and Latin influences that feeds the body and celebrates life. Please welcome the one great vegan, Chef Gabrielle Reyes.
Hey. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that beautiful introduction, for that beautiful speech, all of that. Thank you so much.
As JP was reading out your resume and your accomplishments, I mean, we had gone through this and he had read it to us, and still just really, as he's reading it, I'm caught up in the moment of all the amazing things you've accomplished. But before we dive into all those wonderful things, you have a unique background, being raised in the Haitian and Puerto Rican household. Tell us about that. Like, what was it like?
It was very colorful. Growing up was extremely colorful. I definitely didn't really understand a lot about my culture. My family was extremely religious in a sense. And when I say religious, I mean they hopped around to 10 different religions with 10 different gods. So there was a lot of different kinds of experiences going on. But the main thing that I remember distinctively getting from my culture was the flavors, the cuisine. You know, we didn't grow up with a lot of money, but my father, his parents immigrated here from Puerto Rico, and I believe Scandinavia, actually. His mom was Scandinavian. And then my mother immigrated here from Haiti when she was 12 years old, and she immigrated to New York. They met in New York, and then they went to San Diego, California, which is where I was born. And then we weren't surrounded by a lot of Haitian or Puerto Rican people, but they did still enjoy cooking the foods. That was like the one thing that they kind of held dear. And also the culture in the sense of clothing style, the colors that they enjoyed, the music that they enjoyed, things like that. And it's interesting because those are the things that I enjoy about my culture specifically as well, is food, the colors, the vibrancy of the colors, and the music too.
Yeah, I can see that in your background, actually. And yeah, the colors are a character in itself.
I didn't mention this to you before, but I'm currently a classroom teacher. So I have 9, 10-year-olds that I'm with every day, all day. And I tend to make a connection with our guests and early education. So I'm curious, as a child or like in your schooling, how did your schooling contribute to what you do now? Because I always think about, you know, reading with the kids and studying social studies and science and math, and you want them to feel like these skills are relevant. You're going to need this when you grow up. So what kinds of learning did you pick up in schooling that
Definitely
grew up?
I learned a lot. Well, I was specifically I grew up homeschooled, and then I went to private school, and then I went to public school. So I had 3 vastly different experiences of education, along with the religion, right? Along with the different cultures. You can see there's a lot of influence from a lot of different things. And so when I was in homeschooled in California and San Diego, and then we moved to Texas, I actually really enjoyed it. I remember there being a lot of freedom, but also me missing being around kids. And so my parents put me into music class, and they put me into PE class. And so those are like the 2 getaways into like the reality of, other kids. And I remember loving my music class so much. And that's when I started to discover, I'm good at making music. And, I was maybe 5, 6 years old, but I started to recognize I'm good at this, and my teachers know that. And I was also pretty athletic as a kid too, running fast or jumping high and things like that. Endurance, stuff like that. So basically, I would say that the biggest education I took from my younger years, elementary school, would definitely be the music classes, the arts classes. And also, I thoroughly enjoyed meeting other kids, like the communal part of it, the societal part of it, getting to learn about friends and who's a friend and who's not a friend, and who's trustworthy and who's not trustworthy. Those things are necessary, I think, as a kid to learn. And then I would say going into elementary school and junior high, I definitely started to lean more towards like English. That's the thing that I soared in, honestly, even though I was horrible at spelling. I could always construct a story in some kind of way, whether it be fantasy or reality. Those are the things that I was really good at. And so when you put those things together, I'm pretty good at writing. I like to sing, and I'm athletic. It's kind of like starts to build up to pursuing musical theater, which is what I did in college. And I actually didn't end up going to college for musical theater. I thought I was going to, but I ended up doing acting instead. And I'm so appreciative of it, because I see now that it just made sense. It made sense with where my career was going. And I felt like I was able to dive deeper into who I was because I studied acting opposed to musical theater.
That's perfect. I mean, you like made your life just the way you make these recipes, which by the way, look delicious. And I can see how it all just like really comes full circle. Like you were saying, even the part about friendships, right? Like you've grown a huge online community where people look to you for your recipes and your energy and your joy. So the friendship elements in there too, for sure.
In real life too, with my friends, like here in the community, I love sharing that. I love traveling and sharing my recipes. But I really, really, really love it when people make my food. And they take pictures of it and they make videos about it and they sing their little songs about it. That just brings my heart so much joy, because it makes me realize, wow, I'm touching people all across the world. And, that's more people who are eating healthier, who are existing better, who are existing in joy. That's something that sometimes comes far between, right? Few and far between is joy. And so I'm just out here just trying to give a little joy, get a little joy, give a little joy to you. Give a little joy, get a little joy, give a little joy. For real. Yes, you better.
You even attracted my cat.
For real. Like, I'm out here just trying to spread joy the best way I know how. And the best way I know how is by being 100% myself. And 100% myself likes to sing about vegan food. And it's like, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. This is joy.
Are you enjoying the conversation? Please like and subscribe to our channel. Be sure to hit the bell for notifications and be the first to know when new episodes drop. Do you have any nuggets of wisdom to share? We'd love to hear from you on the nuggets you've learned. Please comment below.
This joyous characteristic that you have, would you say that that's something that you've always had, or is it something that you've developed over the years? Is it an original trait of yours?
It's a mixture. It's a mixture, definitely. I believe that, I was raised by my father, who was so positive and so just exuding of, I don't care what other people think. I'm going to be this weird, goofy white dude and not really care, So exactly, literally, he was just this goofy
noodle arms.
And I so appreciated that about him, because he really did not care. He would dance even though nobody else was dancing. He would sing loud, even though nobody else told him to sing. You know, he was a computer science engineer. And so he was brilliant, but also was so incredibly goofy and nerdy and was really into nerd culture. So I grew up seeing a man who didn't really care about what other people thought about him. And that definitely inspired me to exist fully. And then when he actually passed when I was a teenager, that was like the fire I needed to propel me to fully exist and not be ashamed of any part of who I am, because life is short. Life is way too short to hide a part of yourself and not want to exist fully in this gift of life that you were given.
And through your childhood, it seems you had to, you know, shift places, move to different places. You went to different schools. You started off homeschool. What was that experience like, just making friends, right? If you've had this joyous demeanor about yourself, a lot of kids find it difficult to constantly make new friends. But what was that like for you?
I think the easiest way for me to make friends as a kid was to find a common understanding, whether that be, oh, I like playing with this ball too, you know, do you want to play? Just inviting them. And that's the same thing I believe that I carry out today as a fully grown adult. I don't know if I can call myself that yet, but it's inviting people in, you know, and telling them, hey, like, I'm interested in what you're interested in. And, you know, do you want to be a part, or can I be a part? You know, if somebody is singing a song, maybe it was Britney Spears back then, I don't know. But, you know, I'm over there trying to vibe with them and sing with them. So it's about connecting. And I've realized that throughout my whole life, that's been the easiest way to make real friendships. Not just like, oh, okay, let me meet you, let me use you, let me move on with my life. But genuinely finding an interest in somebody else and then going from there.
You mentioned that you had such a wonderful relationship with your dad. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit more, just for you to talk a little bit more about that, because there was a tragedy that occurred where you lost this person that was so dear to you. Can you talk about that obstacle?
Definitely. Well, so my mother, she had bipolar schizophrenia. She currently still does have bipolar schizophrenia, and she really struggled with it her whole life. So growing up, she was mentally, physically, like verbally abusive to my sister and I. But in a strange way, we were still friends. We still had like an understanding and connection, right? Maybe it's the same kind of connection I exude into other people is the same reason that she, you know, wasn't so abusive to me as she was to my other sibling. But growing up with that, you know, and seeing my father's love and kindness for her and forgiveness, it kind of put me off guard when I was about 17 years old, 16, 17, they decided to get a divorce. He was fed up with, you know, basically her beating on my sister and I, and he was like, all right, we can't do this anymore. Like, this isn't right. You crazy. We got to do something about this. And so when that happened, she basically spiraled into more paranoia, more mental disorders, more fear. And then when they were about to get a divorce, she actually hid his guns from him, hid his firearms from him. And then when he was moving out all of his final stuff, she shot and she killed him. And I was actually supposed to be at the same house, like moving out stuff and helping out with things. But, you know, I'm blessed by the universe, by the God, you know, that I wasn't there in that moment. And instead I'm able to exist fully and, you know, teach people about, you know, talking about mental illness, talking about, you know, fears, talking about disorders, talking about all these things that led her to where she is that's 100% preventable. So it's a strange experience because it was so tragic and so shocking for like maybe 5 years. I wouldn't say 5 years. I'd say maybe like 3 years. It was like numbing. Of course, you know, you lose the person who's the most important being in your life, your only real like family, you know, it feels like that. But now looking back at it as an adult and seeing like what's come from it, I know that there have been blessings from it. Not blessings that I foresaw or wanted or even desired or would even ask for, but the blessings are abundant and apparent and I can't complain. And so I just give gratitude now. I literally thank God. I pray and I talk to my dad, high above or wherever that energy exists. I also believe, whether it be spiritual or religious in some way, I believe that my husband kind of exudes a sense of that same peace that my father exuded. And so being with him is so loving and so calming because it gives me that same sense of like, having a male figure in my family and having a family. Because at this point, my husband, I would say, and his family, which he has a huge family, is now my main family. That's who I would consider. Meld myself and find friendship within family.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I cannot imagine how it feels to experience and then now talk about that. So thank you for your candor. I have to say, as I'm listening to you, I really admire the way that you've been able to transform that traumatic experience into places of growth and places of joy now, where you have a strong grounding of what elements were at play, right? Like mental health and, just family dynamics and what I perceive as your choice to be joyful.
It was definitely a journey, and I believe life is about transformation, especially as an artist. And I believe all human beings, all living beings are artists in some way because we can create. And so that is our incredible superpower, is the fact that we can make anything happen. And beyond that, we can go even farther into storytelling and creation. So as I was on my journey of storytelling, of transformation, I definitely dealt with a sense of numbness at the beginning, a sense of I can't really listen to gunshots. I can't hear the word death. I can't, engage with anything dark. And then when I went into college, I actually jumped right back into acting and theater and musical theater in my high school right after my father passed because that was cathartic for me. I was also seeking therapy at the same time, like group therapy, to talk to other adults and kids whose parents have passed away through, extreme circumstances. So I definitely was able to purge my feelings of frustration and anger, but that journey continues today. The transformation continues today. So when I was in high school, I experienced the numbness and the pain and the frustration. And then going into college, I experienced more lack of control, fear of a lack of control. So and that came out through an eating disorder. That came out through me, binging and purging, mostly overworking out, under eating, things like that, because it was like, well, I can't control who lives and who dies in my life. So I'm going to control how much food I eat, or, how do I get rid of this food? How do I make sure I don't gain weight? And the other thing that was kind of weighing down on me, honestly, was the pressure of the entertainment industry. I had professors that were telling me I was a little too fat, telling me that I wasn't pretty enough to make it. And I was like, dang, I don't believe you, but dang, like this is a lot. So let me go, exist over here. And unfortunately, I wasn't seeking therapy at the time. And so I was medicating myself through binging and purging, through an eating disorder. And like I said, through under eating as well. And so when that was happening, I knew it was a cycle that would just continue and wouldn't end well. So one day I was at a tailgate and I was eating a bunch of food, pork, chicken, fish, shrimp, everything, all the above, cheese, eggs, everything. Okay. And I was existing fully in my binging moment. And then I remember thinking to myself, all right, I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to purge it all. I'm going to throw it up. And before I did that, I don't know what it was. I really don't know what it made it about this day. I think it was just like cease from the universe, like a moment of just stop this nonsense. Because a voice said, go vegan. It said, go vegan. And I said, okay. And I never stopped. Like I literally was like, all right, that's what I'm doing. That will bring me joy. And I didn't know if it was the answer. I didn't know if it was healthy. I didn't know if it was right. And so I dug deep. Luckily, it was Christmas break of my first year in college. So I dug really deep into it and I started finding out What are the pros and cons? I didn't want to just find out, okay, live in fantasy where like, oh my gosh, vegan food is like the best and vegan for the animals. Like, I didn't want to live in that. I wanted to know, all right, what's the keto? What's the paleo? What's going on with all these diets? And what's the common thread? Mm-hmm. And I realized the common thread was vegetables. Okay. So if that's the common thread, let's think about, why are vegetables healthy? Okay, they got color in them. I wonder if that color has anything to do with their health, if they got nutrients in there. Yes, they got nutrients in there. And then I was able to take a nutrition class in college. So I started to become a little bit more interested after I started to eat plant-based. And at the beginning, I had no idea what I was doing. I knew I could eat vegetables, but I thought, okay, I can eat trail mix, I guess. Is butter vegan? I don't know. It took me so long. Is bread vegan? I don't know. I had no idea what I was doing. But now, by trying out new things, leaning into my culture, leaning into the seasoning, the sofrito, the epis, the jerk seasoning, all that goodness, Italian seasoning, poultry seasoning, herbs, just herbs, all the herbs. Yes. Blessing all of the plants with all of the herbs and seasoning them so that, it tastes good, but it's also nutritious as well.
Do you have an audio podcast? Are you looking to grow your audience by expanding into video? Partner with Prosper Digital TV, a virtual and full-service video production company with a dedicated team ready to expand your podcast into video. Visit www.prosperdigital.tv or call 718-622-0062 to get started today.
Wow. And you're making a ton of points and giving a ton of lessons to people who maybe didn't have the same learning experience as you, right? Like, I don't know that everybody's been able to take a nutrition class, but here you are able to share with your community that you've built through the connection you love having. I have a ton of admiration for your journey and just the choices you've had to make and the way you've built things for yourself.
And what's so cool too, it's so easy to educate yourself. You don't have to get a nutrition degree. You don't have to go to college. You don't even have to go to high school to know that eating plants are healthy. Right? Because since we have known, since the beginning of time, since humans have existed, we've seen them consuming plants. And that's how they've survived through drought, through flood, through everything. So it's like, at the end of the day, it just makes more sense. And then once you put two and two together and start to discover, oh, wait, I don't have to get protein from animals. Oh, wait, where do the animals that I'm consuming as protein, where are they getting their protein? And you just take a moment to think about that. And you're like, wait, hold up. How are they, if I'm eating something that has protein, where is it getting it? It can't just be like, just boom, born with it, right? It has to get it from something. And the majority of animals that we consume, pigs, chicken, they eat plants.
Hello.
They eat the grass.
Right. Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I just got to make the plants taste good. And I'm blessed to live in 2020 or whatever at the time it was, 2011, where I can make this food taste good. And you don't need fancy stuff. Like I said, like lentils, cauliflower, mushrooms. These are all things that have been around, things that people can find literally in their forest. They can grow on their own. And it's stuff that can sustain you. And not only sustain you, but it can taste good too. Not only that, you can use it. You can make it versatile. I dare to even say, in fact, I know for a fact, plants are more versatile to cook with than meat is. Because meat, you only have a certain amount of things. And meat, you have to cook to a certain temperature to consume it, right? Plants, it's like, well, dang, I guess, except for things like beans. But in fact, beans, you literally can eat them raw. You just got to soak them. That's the thing. What's beautiful is like when you consume plant foods, you know that there's no extraness going in there. There's no suffering. There's no pain. There's no hormones. We don't know what they feed in the pigs. Right. We don't know what they feed in the chickens. We don't know what they feed in the pork. Oh, Lord, I don't want to know what they're feeding the cows. I don't want to know. And a lot of people don't want to know as well. And that's why they just say, you know what, I'm going to just eat this burger and move on. But then they feel like crap and they're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. And so they realize, wait, They put 2 and 2 together and they go back. And somewhere in the back of their mind, they realize, hold up, my ancestors wasn't doing it like this, though. Right. They might have been eating some meat occasionally, yes, hunting it down, finding it for their own as a community, but they wasn't doing it like this. So you start to realize, wait, hold up. Maybe I should just eat. Let me look at some spinach. Let me just look at some spinach. See how she doing. What can I do with her? Let me look at a lentil. See how she tastes with a little poultry seasoning, a little steak seasoning. Consider, a little salt.
When did you know that things were changing for you? When you started going in the vegan direction, right? Because it seemed like there was a part where you were struggling, you were overeating. You had a different experience with food. When did you know, when you started to move towards this plant direction, what signs did you see that this was working?
I definitely saw signs, I would say, in a week to 2 weeks. It's kind of all a blur now, but for real, it was 2 days of confusion. And during that confusion, I educated myself. I watched a lot of documentaries, a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of, streaming platform, whatever. There was Netflix back then, but I watched a lot of things like that. During that time of education, I nourished myself with what I knew was protein, which was seeds and nuts. So I ate a lot of salads with seeds and nuts. And I was like, all right, I can do this. I can do this for a few days. We'll see. We'll figure it out. And then after the winter break was over, I went back to college, and there was a grocery store opening, and they were giving away, the first 100 people got like $100 of free groceries. And I said, let's go figure this out. Let's have some fun. And so I made a whole experience of it. I woke up at like 4 a.m. and like stood in line and, just kind of invested in the joy of nourishing myself. It wasn't going to become a chore anymore. It was going to be like, all right, I'm not putting suffering into my body anymore, so I'm not going to suffer. I'm going to make this a process of prosperity. And so I grabbed everything. I tried the tofu. I grabbed some sweet potatoes. I grabbed black beans, things that I knew. And those are things that come from my cultures, right? These are things that we use: sweet potato, beans, lentils. I grabbed spinach. I grabbed collards. I grabbed corn, canned products. And then I grabbed some bulk items, maybe some seeds and nuts, mushrooms, kind of just got colors of the rainbow, truly. Ooh, bell peppers. I remember I got so many bell peppers because I knew, obviously, epis, if you make anything that's Latin or African inspired, you're using bell peppers in some kind of way, and thyme, things like that. But it wasn't too expensive. I remember being like, wow, not buying cheese and meat is pretty great because I'm not spending, a ton of money on my groceries for the week.
I shop here in New York, and as a vegetarian vegan shopper, I'm like, hold on,
Carrie, your cat is completely taking the spotlight.
He's listening to my shop, but she eats. I mean, groceries are so expensive. I almost asked her, can you share your kibble, banana, and vegan bread and everything else? This is getting expensive. But
yeah, definitely. That's why I don't buy bougie ingredients, and I don't tell people to buy bougie ingredients. I tell people, if you're looking for, you want to eat good and you want to eat simple and you want to nourish yourself, 3 ingredients you need: lentils, spinach, and chickpea. Well, I would say lentils, spinach, and quinoa. I would say those 3. If you want to just on constant rotation, you still eat good, those 3. Buy those in bulk. And then if you want to get crazy, add a sweet potato in there too. Add in some mushrooms if you feel real crazy, because mushrooms are kind of expensive as well. But the main thing is keep it to those 3 if you're on a budget. And I'm telling you, you can eat a whole day of food. And if you're even more on a budget, you swap out the quinoa for rice. But you keep the spinach. You keep some kind of green in there. Whatever the cheapest green is, you buy that. You make sure you have that on rotation. And you season it. You season it with whatever you got. Even if you ain't got seasoning, you got salt, you got pepper, you season it. Because what's beautiful is plants have wonderful tastes and flavors too. So there's definitely ways to do it. And I always tell people, think about what people eat when they give people, you know, you always see people in other countries, right? And they're like handing them food and like survival food. What is it always? Literally, it's always rice and beans.
Mm-hmm.
Always. I have never not seen a pork chop on no starving child's plate. Being like, oh yeah, we eating good. Like, thanks, America. You know, no, it don't work like that.
I need the
It's rice and beans.
Right.
It's grains. It's flour. And I'm not saying eat that every single day. Don't eat especially not eating the grains and the flour every single day. But eating rice and quinoa or healthy, simple grains, oh my goodness, you can eat cheap. You can eat good. And you don't have to feel heavy. You don't feel weighed down. And your wallet isn't weighed down. Well, your wallet's going to be even more weighed down. It's got more coin in it. Hello.
You talked about this psychological shift too. I'm new to the whole vegan thing, and I'm trying to really learn about it. And I must say, we actually had a conversation with a chef similar to you. He talked about this psychological transition of not consuming death and consuming life. Can you talk about that?
Let me talk to you about awakening. This is a true awakening that you feel when you realize I can nourish myself and I don't have to feel the same suffering that this being existed as it died, as it was tortured, as it bled out, as human beings, literally human beings, joyfully pierced it to death. I don't have to experience that. Wow. What a feeling. What an enlightenment. It honestly, I would say once you have that realization and that click of 2 and 2 together of, okay, so as I consume these animals that went through pain, I too experience the pain in some way, whether it be it comes out your skin, it comes out through your heart, it comes through, you know, your body changing, physically changing. So for me, it just makes sense. It makes sense to not consume things that died on a low vibration. And, you know, whether you're spiritual or religious or, you know, you don't believe in God, it doesn't matter. Pain is pain and joy is joy. And what's beautiful is because I have a cat, obviously, I understand that animals experience pain, whether it be a fish, whether it be a cow, whether it be a chicken, they all experience some kind of pain. And what's interesting is I didn't jump into being plant-based because of eating animals. I didn't care about the animals at all. I was like, okay, cool, animal, woo, good for y'all, have fun. But now it's a realization of the oneness, an understanding of I don't have to put death into this world because obviously because of my pain and suffering and abuse that I experienced, I don't want anything else to ever experience the abuse that I experienced in any form or fashion. When you get slapped, when you get hit, when you get bled out, you don't want anyone else to experience that, you know, especially something that doesn't deserve it, didn't ask for it, or do anything wrong. And now that I understand that animals experience pain and I see the pain because, hello, blood, hello, screaming, you know, those are real things that happen. And that literally translates into your food. That's why you can't eat just meat. No one just eats meat. And the doctor's like, you're doing great. You're doing great. Keep doing that. You know, there's a reason for that. And there's also a reason why the human eye is so attracted to a beautiful flourish of produce. Imagine looking at a field of meat. I'm not saying cows. I'm not saying pigs. I'm not saying chickens. A field of just flesh, cut out butcher shop style. Imagine that. You passing by, driving in the road, you see that, right? And now I want you to take a moment to picture a field of produce. What do you feel when you see that? One of them exudes horror, pain, confusion, not understanding why is this flesh just laying there. The other one exudes comfort, peace, understanding, nourishment, wealth, romance.
It seems like you're associating clearly life and death. how did you experience that internally? Was that an internal shift? Like, when did you start to see that? Did you see that transformation in your health and in your choices in your psychology?
All experience. You know, I went into it because I wanted to heal my bulimia and body dysmorphia and overall weight. I just wanted to get a handle of like a healthy weight management. And it's crazy because I was so sick beforehand. I was sick, I would say at least once a month. I would have a head cold or a sinus infection, things like that. Headaches. I had endless headaches. I had bad skin. I would get acne all the time. I had eczema right here, there, and on my knees as well. You know, my hair wasn't growing. There were so many things, so many levels that were sick, but I didn't see it. I put up with the sickness because, you know, I thought, you know, eating chicken and cheese was healthy. I really was like, oh, okay, cool. I don't see the problem. I feel like crap sometimes, but what's the real problem in it? You know, as long as I'm eating my protein, right? But it was, I would say when I made my first, you know, epic plant-based meal, which was like curried chickpeas with cauliflower and lentils. It was good. And there was some potato in there. I love French fries, so you know how to have some French fries. And it was a realization of fullness, but not heaviness. You know, when you get that itis, and you're like, oh, I got the itis. You know, it's like, oh, man, I ate something heavy. You get the meat sweats. People talk about that. Nah, I'm good on that. I'm good to not experience my body physically going through exuding something that doesn't need to be in there, you know?
Are you enjoying the conversation? Please like and subscribe to our channel. Be sure to hit the bell for notifications and be the first to know when new episodes drop. Do you have any nuggets of wisdom to share? We'd love to hear from you on the nuggets you've learned. Please comment below.
It was an understanding right after I made my first meal. It was like, wow, I am full. I am satisfied. It tasted dang delicious. And I don't feel that low vibration. I don't feel that lowness of like, oh, just like heaviness, you know?
I think that's where I struggle with vegan food, honestly. Just not the food, but the idea of going vegan. I'm not aware of the options and to feel full. So my experience is eating a lot of this fresh stuff and then being incredibly, like intensely hungry, like an hour later. When we look at your recipes of your food, we see all the possibilities. And so have you come across that? Like, is that a common issue? Just understanding what options are there, you know?
Yes, definitely. It's education. But once you realize, you go back to it. Yeah, I'll say it again. You know, our African ancestors survived on plants. They were surviving, right? And so once you realize, okay, they were obviously sustaining themselves enough on plants to go out and hunt for animals to eat, right? They didn't have the energy to go hunt for animals on animals. They had to get that from consuming plants. So how did they do that? They did that with simple ingredients. Like I said, lentils, chickpeas, tofu, edamame. Those are things that can be transformed in literally thousands of different ways and created into hearty dishes that you bite into, and it's satisfying and keeps you full. Trust me, I stay full, and thick vegans, we out here. Listen, like there's some juicy vegans.
Thick vegans.
Good.
Nah, that's a hashtag right there. Nah, that's crazy.
People just love to eat good, you know, especially, you know, if you are multicultural. You love to consume foods that remind you of that culture and bring you that same joy of being around community and family and understanding. And so I love to do that with Haitian food, you know, instead of using pork or beef, I'll use mushrooms, or I'll use, you know, even plant-based products. So they make like vegan chicken or vegan beef. I don't like to use them a lot because it's just not for me and they're kind of higher in price. But if that's what you crave, if you're like, I need protein and I want something that's, you know, that has that same texture, that's the main reason to buy that. It's that bite texture, right?
Yeah.
People like, I like that idea of just biting into flesh, which for me, I'm like, it's not for me. But I understand the want to bite into something hearty and like.
I mean, it's like a muscle memory, you know. I mean, it tells you you're eating something that's going to sustain you if you're used to.
Yes.
So I'm not used to that transition. So the biggest thing I'm looking at is like substitutions.
Of course. And I would say the best way, like if you want a super delicious protein-packed meal that you would probably enjoy if you like meat, the easiest and best thing to do would be a mushroom steak, which is basically, I would get oyster mushrooms and you season it with some oil, salt, pepper, garlic, maybe some parsley, a little bit of steak seasoning, definitely some steak seasoning. You know, you can use all-purpose seasoning. It doesn't really matter.
I'm trying to take some notes. So I'm listening to mushroom steak. So just so like we shared, whenever you see our heads are down because we're taking notes, I'm like trying to put the recipe. So you have to send us these recipes. I know you have your books.
Yes, my mushroom steak is one of my most popular recipes because it is satisfying to meat eaters. You press down the steak with all the seasoning and you add in maple syrup, always adding maple syrup because it adds in that little hint of sweetness in the back. And so you press it down, you get it nice and crispy on the outside and you dig into it. Ooh, it's so meaty, it's so juicy. It's like, you cut into it, you're like, oh my goodness, like I'm eating meat, but I feel so good. I'm just like slurping it up. And what's great about mushrooms too, there's thousands of different kinds of mushrooms. And for me, what I love to do is help people discover that you don't have to go to a grocery store to enjoy delicious plant-based food, right? Like, because some people live in food deserts. They're, number one, what's great is that places like the 99-cent store or like Dollar Tree, these places have full-on vegan decadence going on. People just don't think about it. Yeah, really? Dollar Tree.
Dollar Tree got to be different. Dollar Tree got to be different in Florida.
Think about it. Everywhere. Because the thing is, there are essentials everywhere. I've got to do a video about this. There truly are essentials here because there's always going to be dry ingredients, whether that be rice and beans. Let me tell you, lentils. You can do so many different things with lentils. So many different things. You could even make, I dare to say you could even make like a chicken sandwich using lentils. Literally, you could just like soak, blend, season the lentils up. And this would be so inexpensive too. That's what's beautiful about it, is how much less expensive it is than eating animal products. Yeah. So you would soak the lentils, season it, and then basically put it back into the refrigerator to let it bind together. And then I would cut it into, chicken pieces, whether you want it to be dunks, little chicken dunkies. I just came up with that word. I didn't know that. That's gonna be in my restaurant. We've got to do that. 100%.
Look, trademark that. Trademark that right now.
And things like that. Yeah, but you can do a lot with plant-based food. And yet again, I always go back to the culture. I always go back to Africa or, Latin America or India. You go back and you see everybody who's melanated was really digging into some plants,
One thing that I've heard is that if you wouldn't blend it, you shouldn't eat it. Is there truth to that?
What I believe is that people have been blending and processing food for thousands of years, but you know how they were doing it? Have you ever seen one of those pestles and mortar where you basically put in your spices in a big rock and then you have another rock and you mix it together? You want me to go get it? I can show you.
Yeah.
You want me to show it to you?
Your mortar and pestle, yes.
Ain't nothing to it but to do it. You know what I'm saying?
They didn't have a
because you wouldn't blend meat, right? So it's like
that's a pilon.
Pilon.
That's a pilon.
Exactly.
I love that.
Exactly. And they make it huge. And that's how people have been grinding up and making eppies and making jerk for so long. Yes, that's how people have been doing it. So that's what I think about blending. I'm always like, and listen, I always tell people, and you don't even got to blend it. If you got one of these, if you got a big rock and a small rock, there you go.
You know what's crazy? What's crazy is you got the whole culture with the pillow and the earpiece, and you.
My thing is, I don't think everyone should be vegan, but I do know. It's not that I think. I know everyone should eat more plants, right? And because of that, to me, there's no excuses. You can't say, oh, like how, I don't know, like where I can get plants. When honestly, everybody in any kind of economic place has access to plants in some kind of way, because plants are the cheapest. They're always going to be the cheapest to manufacture. Animals cost more to get onto your plate because the animals have to eat plants to get onto your plate. So it's like cutting out literally the middle cow or the middle man, and then realizing like, oh wait, I just got to eat this. So no matter what happens, recession or inflation or whatever happens, plants are always going to be the cheapest.
I always imagine my crossover point would be replacing oxtail. Okay. Now, anyone who knows me knows.
Bring it.
Okay.
Bring it. You gotta bring it.
You gotta bring it.
I got a recipe.
Before we get to the recipe, and we go down the recipe world and never come back.
Yeah.
You made a shift. You know, you started to, as a performer, you started to find, like, when you started to mix cooking and singing and acting, when did that happen and how did it happen?
Well, I was studying musical theater. Well, I was studying theater and acting, and then I was doing some musicals my senior year in college. That was like the first year I did musicals at the university. And then I actually got cast in Dreamgirls in Dallas, at Dallas Theater Center. And when I was doing that, I started to realize like, oh, I'm actually a really good singer. I'm a good performer. I'm a good entertainer in general. And I was now making vegan food for all of my friends, bringing it to cast parties, bringing it to hangouts. You know, I was the vegan in the group, right? But they all wanted to know how I was surviving on this. Basically, I was creating food while creating art at the same time. And one day I'm chilling with my husband, we making mac and cheese, and I just start singing about the mac and cheese. I record it. I'm singing, I love mac and cheese. I love mac and cheese. I love mac and cheese.
Hey.
I still remember it because I still love mac and cheese. Okay. And so I was singing it and I posted it and people were like, yes, girl, I love mac and cheese and I love this song. And so I just started sharing little nuggets of singing inside of all of my videos. And then people loved it. And I was like, I love it too. This brings me joy. I just happen to come up with little songs all the time. That's how my husband and I kind of sing and flirt and talk. We just sing little songs to each other. And that's why we came up with a whole album. It all came out from a joke. Literally half of those songs were all jokes at first. And then it was like, oh, let's make a whole album.
Look at that. Just being yourself and actually just kidding is what brought this all out for you. Well, I'll take it. I mean, that's a fantastic way to live, because then you don't have to like really try. You just do, right? Win, win, win all around.
Yeah, and that's what life is about. Life is about being authentically yourself, existing in yourself, and not being ashamed of who you are, truly. And I believe life is about love, sharing that love with other people and seeing where it takes you and bringing love and sharing the good word of love. Like, oh, you got love, we got love. Here's some love. You need love, I got you love, you know? So that's what I believe. I have been yet to be challenged on that as of yet. So we'll see. Stay tuned.
Do you have an audio podcast? Are you looking to grow your audience by expanding into video? Partner with Prosper Digital TV, a virtual and full-service video production company with a dedicated team ready to expand your podcast into video. Visit www.prosperdigital.tv or call 718-622-0062 to get started today.
Touching on that, as a content creator, for you, this isn't just a labor of love, right? You're seeing some success here and you have multiple platforms, and managing that for a lot of people can be pretty stressful, you know? And I'm always curious as to how, you know, content creators manage, you know, keeping up with even themselves. How do you go about creating content, your creative process, putting the content out there and staying healthy on top of that? Because a lot of people sacrifice their health to work on the content and stay up all night and do all this. How do you go about that?
Self-care is so necessary. It is needed, and everybody in any kind of social class, any kind of income, we all deserve self-care because we deserve self-love, right? So it is a balance between some late nights, some 3 a.m., 4 a.m. nights. Like I just stayed up, I would say 2 nights ago, I stayed up till like 5 a.m. But it's fun. For me, that part is fun because I know I'm going to sleep in the next day and I'm going to rest myself. I'm going to eat a good meal. I'm going to drink my celery juice. And then I'm going to take a break away from the screens before I jump into it again. That's the main thing. I always make sure I have 1 day a month. I call it a potato day. And I always have 1 day where I step away from social media of all kinds, except for my email, because, you know, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But I step away from posting or liking, engaging, commenting back. And I just watch TV. I, edit stuff if I have to, but I really just focus on what I want to do that day. I eat what I want. I treat myself. Maybe I make some crafts. I really like to sew and craft as well. Make little hair bows and things like that. Jewelry. I love doing that kind of stuff. So yeah, just find ways to treat myself, make myself feel good. But through the process of actually creating the content, mainly how it works is I get a recipe idea, whether that be for, a series I'm doing, Soul Food Savings, or, I'm actually about to do a tofu series, or, whether it's working with Food Network or somebody. It doesn't really matter wherever it comes from. A recipe idea comes out, then the first step is coming up with exactly what I want to eat. So if it's like, okay, we will have a Caribbean recipe and we want you to create something that's American Caribbean fusion. It's like, okay, what are the classic American and Caribbean flavors? So I'll kind of just explore my mind and really think about asking about my husband wants to eat and think about what my friends will want to eat. I'll reach out to my family and I'll be like, hey, what would you rather? Caribbean crunch wrap or like vegan Jamaican lasagna? And they're like, Caribbean crunch wrap. Let's go with that. And I'm like, all right, that's what I'm going to make. Kind of like voting, but I don't do it so much with my followers. I do the voting more so like within my immediate family and friends. And then after that, I actually have an assistant now who I'm so blessed to work with. She has saved me many, many a times. And she feels like a sister at this point. A sister. I don't know if that's a word, but
you're just making up words tonight. I like that. I like that.
I've been making up so much, so many random words. But so she helps me with shopping and getting the kitchen ready and setting up the lights. So after I have all the ingredients, we'll get them prepped together. I'll do some like photography, and then I will start filming the recipe. Sometimes I'll do like a little teaser video to share with my followers, like, oh, I'm about to shoot this recipe video. Then I'll shoot the recipe video. Typically takes like 1 to 3 hours, depending on if I'm baking or if I'm like, there's a lot of different levels to it or layers. And then once I'm done doing that, then I edit all that together the next day or, in the next few days. And once I'm done editing it, I write down the lyrics, and I do that by picking out a song. And I have beats from my husband and from a producer I work with as well, who actually helped me with my album. And I pick out a beat that fits the vibe, whether it be Latin, Caribbean, American, soul, jazz, whatever it be. I pick out the kind of beat that fits the recipe and the ingredients and the culture behind it. And then once I do that, I watch the video I edited, and then I start saying the recipe back to myself and be like, all right, 6-layer Mediterranean dip. It's a hit. 6-layer Mediterranean dip. It's a hit.
Oh, it's a hit.
6-layer Mediterranean dip. Oh, it's a hit. Like, I'll literally be doing that, and it'll all start.
I can get into that one for sure.
And it all starts from speaking just on time, on the rhythm. Boom, boom. And sometimes I don't get it right at first, and it'll be like, oh, that doesn't sound right. Maybe I want to call it Mediterranean deep, everything up in peace, which is what it ended up being, the song. I ended up realizing, I don't need to put all of those words in there. sometimes I like to really vary it up by making sure not every song sounds the same. So some songs it'll try to be slower, some I'll be making more fast, like dance beats. And then once I have the lyrics, I'll confirm them with my client, typically who I'm working with, or with myself. Like, oh, is this what I want to do? Or with my husband. My husband will help me too with some of the lyrics because he is an amazing poet and musician and lyricist. So I'll be like, yo, can you make this any better? And he'll be like, yes. Then I'll go record it. And then I will go record it. And recording takes so long. It takes like 3 to 4 hours each song. Just because I'm a perfectionist and I'll like be putting in harmonies and different kinds of cuts and all this stuff. And it's gotten way more complicated than it needs to be, but I love it. And so I can't complain. So it's a process.
Have you worked with Sesame Street on creating programs or anything like that?
No, that would be fun.
Thinking of all the possibilities, like introducing all these options of foods in a way that, people can sing along and kids can gravitate towards this, not to mention even animated, productions and having it,
That would be so cute. Oh my goodness. That would be so cute.
Really, flailing the arm.
That's what I thought about. I immediately thought about, wow, you can actually sing, vegetarian and healthy eating to these to the kids, right? Like that is having a hard time. So have you found that to be like JP was mentioning, a potential crossover market into the children sector?
I always have loved kids. I personally don't know if I want to have kids in the future, but I do love the energy of children and their joy, their curiosity. And so I love the fact that also kids are so easy to understand love and life and appreciation of it. And so kids can understand like, oh, vegetables and fruits can be tasty. And just getting to sing about it, it's cool because I know kids love it. I have friends that have toddlers and they'll be like, I play your songs for them and they just be dancing like this, they'll send me videos. And that's actually how I kind of really started to pop off was during 2020, a lot of kids had TikTok and they were really like, oh my goodness, like Mom, Dad, I want to be like her. I want to make food like her. And so, it's been cool getting to, be an adult who shares things for adults, but also kids are interested in it too. I love that because I love all ages. I love all life at this point. I'm just appreciative of the gift of life. And if I can help educate kids at a young age about that gift of life and the fact that it's so apparent that it needs to be a blessing and that you can honor that gift by eating the rainbow. And kids love colors, right? So eating the rainbow, things like that, it's so much fun and it's so easy for them. Kids, I think they're hesitant from eating plants because they're shoved chicken nuggets in their face
and pizza
as soon as they understand what food is, right? So it's about a lot of learning and education, but that's why I'm here to educate, help people learn, help people grow. Maybe it's one kid at a time, one person at a time, but at least it's happening at this time. That, I know is going to be delicious, quick, and easy is always like a stir fry of sorts. So basically I'll throw in some onions, I'll throw in some peppers, I'll throw in whatever vegetables I have, and then I'll throw in my beans or my hummus. So I'll either throw in chickpea or lentils, and they're all cooked, obviously, or, a dollop of hummus to make it nice and creamy. And then from that, you can kind of choose whatever you want to put it in. You could put it in pasta, you could put it in sandwich, you could put it on a pizza, you can put it in tacos. You can kind of do whatever you want with it, but it's got flavor, it's got protein, it's got the vegetables, and it took less than 20 minutes to make it. So that's kind of like my go-to.
One thing I will say is something that keeps people from cooking as often is the dish work, right? The dishes after. Do you address that at all? How do you address that?
That's so interesting. The same recipe I just gave you, that is one that's so great for dishes because you just put it all into one pan, right?
There we go.
Throw everything. You have a cutting board, you have a knife, but then after that, you just throw it in the pan and it's like, oh, okay, cool.
So
I got food now.
Speaking my language right now. There it is.
I like that or sheet pan dinners, which is basically the same concept, but you just put it all on a sheet pan. You cover it in seasoning, cover it in oil. You shake it up a little bit. You roast it. You got one pan, done. I see every plant as a gift. Obviously, I'm all about the gifts, the gift of life, the gift of love. And I see these plants as a gift. And I feel so honored to live in this time period where I have access to an abundance of plants and spices. So to me, it's like, thank you. I'm like honoring the universe and all of its gifts by, fusing all these flavors together. So I love it. And I always try to create some kind of pumpkin recipe. I believe it's an homage to, my Haitian culture. I always try to create something around, Christmas, New Year's, holiday time, just kind of celebrates the survival of the pumpkin, right? The survival, the celebration of the pumpkin.
Gabrielle, I have to say, just listening to you and watching your recipes and sensing you, I can almost taste it. Like, you're experiencing you really is a gift to all the senses, and it's wonderful to get to experience you for us, for the show, for the Nugget, and even just personally. So I want to thank you as we start to kind of wrap up our episode. Just thank you for being you and bringing yourself here and spending this time with us today.
Thank you. That is so incredibly kind for you to say. Honestly, I'm blessed. I love getting to share, and getting to just speak to people and educate, right? That's like my whole reason for living, really. The fact that y'all brought me on here, I feel honored and blessed. So thank y'all.
So as if you haven't already shared enough, is there a final nugget, maybe your tastiest one, that you would like to leave for our Nugget audience?
Eat the rainbow. Eat it. Even if you're eating your steak and your fish and all that, just throw some rainbow on there on the side. Go to the grocery store, buy the red, buy the orange, buy the yellow, buy the purple. Put it all together. Eat the rainbow, and seasoning is everything. Seasoning is everything.
All right. Oh,
everything.
Thank you for that. We love it. We
love it.
Right before we let you go, please share with our audience all the places they can find you online and otherwise.
You can find me, Gabrielle Reyes, as One Great Vegan on all social platforms, or Gabrielle Reyes, honestly, either or, but I do go by One Great Vegan.